The Lucy Show. The story opens with Lucy Carmichael arriving at the bank already buzzing with restless energy. The kind that signals trouble long before she speaks a single word. And it becomes immediately clear that she has latched onto a new idea that she believes will elevate her daily routine into something glamorous and exciting, because after months of feeling like her work has settled into predictability, Lucy becomes convinced that she is destined for a more thrilling chapter, especially when she overhears a conversation about a high-profile client whose business dealings sound mysterious and important. And without fully understanding the details, she instantly decides that she must somehow become involved, imagining herself operating in a world of sophistication and intrigue rather than paperwork and procedure, while Mr. Mooney, already wary of the gleam in her eye, attempts to redirect her attention back to her regular duties, reminding her in no uncertain terms that the bank's survival depends on order and discipline rather than adventure. Yet Lucy's imagination has already sprinted miles ahead, constructing elaborate scenarios in which she plays a crucial role in protecting or assisting this influential client. And as the episode progresses, her attempts to insert herself into the situation grow increasingly complicated, beginning with small gestures such as volunteering to handle documents she does not usually manage and escalating into accidental misunderstandings, when she misinterprets ordinary business precautions as evidence of secretive operations, which leads her to behave in exaggeratedly cautious ways, whispering inappropriately, glancing over her shoulder, and treating routine interactions like covert exchanges, much to the confusion of coworkers and customers alike. And Viv, watching Lucy spiral into theatrical suspicion, tries to ground her by pointing out that not every important transaction is a spy novel in disguise. But Lucy is fueled by the intoxicating belief that she has stumbled upon something larger than life, and that belief propels her into a sequence of missteps that blend physical comedy with social awkwardness, including a moment where her attempt to discreetly follow instructions results in her misplacing crucial paperwork, causing temporary panic that forces Mr. Mooney to intervene with his trademark mixture of outrage and reluctant responsibility. Yet beneath the chaos lies a familiar emotional thread, because Lucy's behavior is driven less by recklessness and more by her longing to feel indispensable, to prove that she is capable of handling complexity and significance rather than being confined to minor tasks. And when her over-involvement creates tension with the very client she hoped to impress, she is confronted with the uncomfortable realization that her enthusiasm, unchecked by patience or clarity, has once again complicated something that required steady professionalism. And the middle portion of the episode deepens this conflict as Lucy attempts to repair the situation by doubling down on competence, promising Mr. Mooney that she will correct her mistakes and restore order, which leads to a montage-like sequence of her carefully retracing her steps, piecing together documents, clarifying misunderstandings, and trying to present herself with composure even when her nerves threaten to betray her. And although she fumbles repeatedly, knocking over items or speaking too quickly, there is a noticeable shift in tone, because this time Lucy is not chasing fantasy but trying to undo the consequences of her imagination. And that effort gradually transforms the chaos into a more constructive rhythm, culminating in a scene where she faces the client directly and offers a candid explanation, admitting that her eagerness to be helpful overtook her judgment, a confession delivered with equal parts embarrassment and sincerity, which unexpectedly earns a measure of forgiveness, since the client recognizes that while Lucy's methods were misguided, her intentions were not malicious, and this acknowledgement softens Mr. Mooney's stance as well, leading to a closing stretch where the immediate crisis is resolved and the bank returns to its usual hum. Yet Lucy is left reflecting on the pattern that continues to define her journey, the oscillation between ambition and impulse, confidence and chaos. And in the final scenes, she shares a quieter conversation with Viv about the difference between wanting to participate in something meaningful and needing to dramatize it in order to feel significant, recognizing that real importance often hides inside ordinary responsibilities. A lesson she grasps intellectually, even if her personality makes full restraint unlikely. And as always, the episode concludes on a humorous note, with Lucy spotting yet another intriguing opportunity on the horizon and Mr. Mooney catching the spark in her expression just in time to brace himself, reinforcing the enduring dynamic that fuels the series. Lucy's relentless pursuit of something bigger than her current circumstances, the comedic disasters that pursuit invites, and the small but genuine growth that emerges each time she learns, at least temporarily, that enthusiasm works best when anchored by understanding. And as the story continues to stretch beyond that moment, the aftermath of Lucy's misadventure lingers in subtle but meaningful ways. Because even though the immediate crisis at the bank has been resolved and the client has moved on without lasting damage, Lucy herself cannot quite shake the mixture of embarrassment and restless energy that follows her whenever one of her grand ideas collapses under its own weight, and instead of retreating completely, she enters a phase of cautious self-awareness that is almost more comedic than her earlier overconfidence, since she now second-guesses even the simplest decisions, pausing before speaking, hesitating before acting, and repeatedly asking Viv and Mr. Mooney for confirmation about tasks she previously would have tackled impulsively, which creates a new kind of disruption in the workplace. One driven not by excess enthusiasm, but by overcorrection, and Mr. Mooney, who initially welcomes the absence of chaos, soon finds himself exasperated in a different way as Lucy's constant need for reassurance slows down operations and introduces a peculiar tension, where efficiency is replaced by hesitation, leading to a sequence of interactions in which Lucy attempts to behave with perfect professionalism but ends up appearing stiff and unnatural, as though she is performing the role of a competent employee rather than actually being one. And this shift becomes especially noticeable when another routine situation arises involving a different customer whose request is straightforward yet slightly unfamiliar, prompting Lucy to freeze momentarily as she debates internally whether to trust her instincts or defer entirely to Mr. Mooney's authority. And this internal conflict plays out in small physical gestures, her hands hovering uncertainly over paperwork, her voice wavering between confidence and doubt, her eyes darting toward Mr. Mooney for approval, which adds a layer of character-driven humor that contrasts with the broader antics earlier in the episode. And Viv, observing this new pattern, gently points out that Lucy's problem has never been her desire to help, but rather the extremes in how she expresses it, swinging from reckless initiative to paralyzing caution without finding a stable middle ground. And this observation begins to resonate with Lucy as she reflects on the chain of events that led her here, recognizing that her earlier mistake was not simply about misunderstanding the situation, but about assuming importance without fully earning or understanding it, while her current struggle stems from fearing another mistake so much that she avoids taking any initiative at all. And as the episode builds toward its extended conclusion, Lucy is presented with one more opportunity to act, this time in a context that echoes the earlier situation but on a smaller, more manageable scale, where a minor discrepancy in records requires someone to step forward, analyze the issue, and resolve it without turning it into a spectacle. And after a brief moment of visible hesitation, Lucy chooses to engage, drawing on both her natural enthusiasm and her newly developing sense of restraint. And although she still makes a few awkward missteps along the way, such as over-explaining her reasoning or briefly reverting to theatrical suspicion before catching herself, she ultimately manages to correct the problem in a way that is both effective and appropriately measured, earning a nod of approval from Mr. Mooney that, while understated, carries genuine recognition. And this small success serves as a quiet but significant turning point, suggesting that Lucy is capable of growth even if it arrives in incremental, imperfect steps. And the closing moments of the episode lean into this balance between comedy and character development, showing Lucy returning to her usual spirited self but with a slightly more grounded perspective, joking with Viv about her tendency to imagine herself at the center of dramatic scenarios while acknowledging that sometimes the most meaningful contributions are the ones that go unnoticed, and yet the final beat refuses to let the lesson settle too comfortably, as Lucy overhears yet another intriguing fragment of conversation, something about an unusual delivery or a peculiar request that instantly reignites her curiosity, and the camera lingers on her expression as excitement begins to bubble up again, signaling that while she may have learned something valuable, her core nature remains unchanged, ensuring that the cycle of ambition, misunderstanding, and comedic fallout will continue, not as a failure of growth, but as the very engine that keeps her story alive, blending aspiration with imperfection in a way that defines both the humor and the heart of the series.